There is a sound that soldiers on the ground never forget. A deep, grinding, almost mechanical roar that rolls across the sky just before the earth shakes. It is not a missile launch. It is not a bomb drop. It is a gun. Specifically, it is the GAU-8 Avenger, a rotary cannon so powerful, so brutally effective, that the entire A-10 Warthog aircraft was essentially built around it. And now, that weapon and the platform carrying it have been so fundamentally transformed that the defense community has started calling it something different entirely. They are calling it the A-11. And what that name represents on a modern battlefield is something adversaries need to take very seriously. The original A-10 Warthog was a contradiction from the day it entered service: slow, unglamorous. Built for a war that never happened, the Soviet armor columns that were supposed to pour through the Fulda Gap and roll across Central Europe. When the Cold War ended without that war being fought, the A-10 should have become a museum piece. Instead, it went to the Gulf, to the Balkans, to Afghanistan, to Iraq, to Syria. Every single time someone in Washington decided it was time to retire it, a war broke out somewhere that reminded everyone why it existed. And every single time it deployed, it came back with a record that no strike fighter, no drone, and no precision munition could fully replicate. The A-11 is what happens when the Air Force finally stops treating that record as a reason to keep the platform on life support and starts treating it as a reason to invest. To understand what makes the A-11 different, you have to understand what made the A-10 both legendary and increasingly criticized. The GAU-8 Avenger cannon, which has been the heart of the Warthog since 1977, fires 30mm rounds at approximately 3,900 rounds per minute, 65 rounds every second. The armor-piercing incendiary variant uses a depleted uranium penetrator capable of defeating the top armor of virtually any Cold War-era tank. Against the Soviet armor threat it was designed to counter, it was devastating. Against the modernized armor fielded by Russia and China today, tanks equipped with composite protection, explosive reactive armor tiles, and active protection systems that can intercept incoming rounds, the original ammunition equation was becoming less certain. That uncertainty became the primary argument for retiring the platform entirely. The A-11 program exists specifically to destroy that argument. The most consequential change in the A-11 configuration is the cannon system itself. The GAU-8 retains its iconic rotary barrel design and its ferocious rate of fire, but the ammunition feeding into it is fundamentally different. The new generation of 30mm rounds developed for the A-11 uses an enhanced penetrator design engineered specifically to defeat modern composite armor and explosive reactive armor packages. Where the original PGU-14 armor-piercing round was optimized for the armor standards of the 1970s, the updated ammunition is built around the threat vehicles of the 2020s and beyond. The penetration profiles are deeper, the defeat mechanisms are more sophisticated, and the result is a cannon that is no longer playing catch-up against the armor it was built to kill, it is once again ahead of it. But the ammunition upgrade is only part of the story. The A-11 also incorporates an improved barrel thermal management system that extends the effective sustained fire window significantly beyond what the original GAU-8 configuration allowed. In practical terms, this means longer attack passes, more rounds on target per engagement, and reduced mechanical stress on the weapon system during high-tempo operations. For a platform whose entire tactical identity is built around persistence and volume of fire, that is not a marginal improvement. It changes the calculus of every engagement the aircraft enters. The avionics and targeting systems have been overhauled with equal seriousness. The A-11 carries updated sensor integration that allows the pilot to prosecute targets with a level of situational awareness that the original A-10 cockpit simply could not provide. Improved data link connectivity means the aircraft can communicate targeting information directly with ground forces in real time, receive updated threat coordinates mid-mission, and coordinate with other platforms in the battle space in ways that were either impossible or deeply limited on earlier variants. The result is an aircraft that is not just more lethal in isolation, it is more lethal as part of a networked force. Now consider the strategic context in which the A-11 is arriving. The debate over close air support doctrine has been reignited by conflicts that defense planners did not fully anticipate and cannot afford to ignore. Ukraine has demonstrated in real time, at enormous human and material cost, that 21st century ground warfare is not the clean, networked, precision strike environment that dominated American military thinking for 2 decades after the Cold War ended. It is artillery barrages that last for days. It is armored columns grinding through contested terrain under constant threat from above and below. It is trench lines that echo the Western Front more than they resemble the lightning campaigns of Operation Desert Storm. It is electronic jamming that blinds communication networks, GPS-guided munitions that lose their edge, and front lines that shift by the hour in ways that no targeting algorithm can fully anticipate. What Ukraine has forced military planners to confront is a fundamental question they thought had already been answered. What does effective air support actually look like when the enemy is dug in, dispersed, and fighting back with everything they have? The answer emerging from that conflict is uncomfortable for anyone who spent the last 20 years arguing that precision standoff strikes had rendered dedicated close air support platforms obsolete. It turns out that dropping a guided bomb from altitude is enormously effective when you have a fixed, confirmed target and uncontested airspace. It is considerably less effective when the target is a column of infantry using tree lines for cover, or an armored vehicle that has moved 3 times in the last hour, or a crew-served weapon position that needs to be suppressed right now while friendly forces are still in contact. That is the gap the A-11 fills. That is the gap no amount of software sophistication has managed to close. The Nagorno-Karabakh conflict added another critical layer to that lesson. Drone dominance proved strategically decisive in that war, and every major military on the planet absorbed those implications with considerable urgency. Unmanned systems are now a permanent and central feature of modern battlefield planning. But what that conflict also revealed to those paying close enough attention is the hard ceiling of what drone strikes alone can achieve. They cannot suppress a determined armored advance indefinitely. They cannot loiter over a dynamic engagement and adjust fires in direct conversation with the ground commander shaping the battle in real time. They cannot project the kind of sustained, visible, committed presence that fundamentally alters enemy behavior and decision-making on the ground. A drone strike is an event. The A-11 orbiting overhead is a condition, a persistent, armed, communicating condition that changes what the enemy is willing to do and where they are willing to move for as long as the aircraft remains on station. That distinction is not philosophical. It is tactical. And it is precisely the distinction that has driven the investment in this platform at this moment. The survivability question is real and deserves a direct answer. The A-10 was designed from the ground up to absorb punishment that would destroy a conventional fighter. Its titanium armored cockpit, the famous bathtub, was built to withstand direct hits from 23mm cannon fire. Its redundant flight control systems mean the aircraft can lose hydraulics entirely and still be flown home manually. Its twin engines are mounted high and wide, separated deliberately, so that a single hit cannot take out both simultaneously. These are not marketing features or engineering footnotes. They are documented, combat-proven capabilities that have brought pilots home from situations that would have been fatal in any other tactical aircraft in the American inventory. The A-11 retains every one of those structural advantages and builds on them. Updated electronic warfare systems give the platform a significantly improved ability to detect, classify, and respond to radar-guided threats before they become critical. Enhanced situational awareness tools mean the pilot spends less time reacting and more time controlling the engagement. Improved countermeasure systems add another layer of protection against the shoulder-fired and short-range surface-to-air threats that define the low-altitude environment where the A-11 operates. No one is arguing that the A-11 should fly unescorted into airspace defended by S-400 batteries. That is not how the platform is employed, and it was never designed to operate that way. What it is designed to do is dominate the threat environment that exists below the threshold of sophisticated integrated air defense, the chaotic, contested, low-altitude battle space where most of the actual killing happens. And in that environment, with these survivability upgrades, it is more capable of completing the mission and returning its pilot safely than at any point in the platform's operational history. Compare it to the alternatives, and the gap becomes even clearer. The F-16 carries a 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, capable, proven, but operating in a fundamentally different weight class from a 30mm system. The F-35 carries a 25mm GAU-22, an improvement over the Vulcan in some respects, but still not a platform designed around the concept of low-altitude persistence. Both aircraft were engineered to excel across a wide spectrum of missions. That versatility is exactly what makes them poor substitutes for an aircraft whose entire design philosophy is built around staying close, staying long, and keeping firing. The A-11 does not compete with the F-35 on stealth or beyond visual range engagement. It does something the F-35 was never designed to do and cannot do as effectively. It owns the low-altitude close battle in a way that changes outcomes on the ground. There is also a psychological dimension to the A-11 that no technical specification fully captures. The sound of the GAU-8 firing is not something that can be replicated by a missile impact or a bomb crater. It is immediate. It is directional. It tells everyone within range exactly what is happening and exactly where it is coming from. Enemy forces under fire from an A-11 know the aircraft is close, know it is watching, and know it can fire again before they have finished reacting to the last burst. That knowledge degrades decision-making, suppresses movement, and creates a kind of battlefield paralysis that standoff weapons simply do not produce. The upgraded cannon system, with its extended firing window and modernized ammunition, deepens that effect with every pass. The Air Force's decision to invest in the A-11 configuration rather than accelerate the A-10's retirement is a signal worth reading carefully. Defense acquisition decisions at this scale do not happen based on sentiment or institutional habit. They happen because someone with authority looked at the threat environment, looked at the operational record, looked at what the platform could become with targeted investment, and concluded that the return was worth the cost. That conclusion, in the current strategic climate, carries significant weight. There is a reason this aircraft has survived every attempt to retire it. It is not sentiment. It is not institutional inertia. It is not the loyalty of the pilots who fly it or the ground troops who call it in. It is something simpler and harder to argue with: results. In every conflict where the Warthog has been deployed, in every situation where ground forces were surrounded, outgunned, and running out of options, it showed up and changed the equation. Not from 40,000 feet, not from a safe standoff distance. Right there, low and loud, with a cannon that sounds like the earth itself is tearing apart. That is what no replacement has ever been able to fully replicate. Speed is not a substitute for persistence. Precision is not a substitute for presence. And a single guided bomb dropped from altitude is not a substitute for a platform that can orbit a target area, talk directly to the soldiers on the ground, and keep firing until every threat in the engagement zone is gone. The A-11 carries that legacy forward and sharpens it. It brings the combat record of the most battle-tested close air support aircraft in American history into a threat environment that has grown considerably more dangerous and considerably more complex since the original airframe first flew. Every upgrade layered into this configuration, the cannon, the ammunition, the targeting systems, the survivability enhancements, exists because the mission demands it and the battlefield has earned the right to demand it. This is not a platform being preserved out of nostalgia. It is a weapon being refined because the wars of the present moment require exactly what it was built to deliver. And that, more than any budget argument or acquisition memo, is why the A-11 is here and why it is not going anywhere. The A-11 does not abandon what made the original Warthog legendary. It takes everything that made it irreplaceable and makes it more lethal, more connected, and more capable of surviving the environments where it matters most. And in a world that is looking more and more like the threat environment this aircraft was originally built to dominate, that is not a coincidence. That is a strategic decision. The A-11 was built for exactly this moment, and with this cannon, it is ready for whatever comes next.